it's there, but it won't come out.
And it's just like, I know it.
But
it's like, and then they say it, and you're like, I knew it.
In all honesty, that's normal when you hit your 40s into your 50s and 60s. It's only going to get worse, buddy. But exercise is supposed to help. But I've repeated myself to you apparently with like 4 stories.
My potential to change human nature with my brainiac abilities is going down each day. So I don't know, but yeah, if you keep repeating yourself, I'll just let you know.
Okay,
I got you.
Well, and everyone else will let me know because when I do, you know how the phrase thing when
I'll
you
never forget might not be meaning the same thing anymore because you are forgetting.
But when you repeat a phrase, that's not really a memory issue thing. That's just like
filler.
You get into it. Again, I told you, I do that sometimes in broadcasts. It's one of those things where you get a phrase stuck in your head and you'll just repeat it and you don't even know you're doing it until you go back and listen to a show or watch a broadcast. So I have in all seriousness, I have note cards of a bunch of, and I think every broadcaster has their little technique that I have a ton of different adjectives, so you just don't say good or great.
You write a list of adjectives? That's
absolutely,
cool. I like
because
that.
what happens is
do that.
You'll be like, oh, what a great play. And then, 40 seconds later, Ferreira made a great play. And you just don't want to say this. You don't want to be, the same description. No. So by having note cards, I'm constantly looking at them. And then I'll say, I'll be like, in my mind, that's an exceptional play. You know what I mean? Right. You'll just, and you can kind of differentiate your plays.
Sure.
And so it just helps. And that's what I'm sure I didn't always have those. But I've had them for a while. So I guess if I was 25, maybe I wouldn't. But anyway, let's go.
All right. So Memorial Day. Here we go. All right. So let's talk about 1940, 42. And I'm probably going to say this name wrong, but it's Al Blozis.
I think it is Blozis.
Okay. So he played for the New York Giants. Okay, but let's go back a little bit. He was born in Garfield, New Jersey.
The New York Football Giants?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. Yeah,
back in those days, a lot of different teams going on.
We're going to come to that later. But he was born in Garfield, New Jersey, not far from where I grew up. We used to play Garfield in football, like midget football. Pee-wee, can you say midget?
No, you cannot. Pop Warner actually
Pee-wee?
eliminated
Is Pee-wee okay?
it. No,
can't say Pee-wee either?
I think Pee-wee.
For God's sake.
I know midget's not in there. Mighty Mites. They changed it a lot, but anyway.
The sad part, I could probably still play. I probably still have some eligibility with midget football. I have to lose some weight. Yeah.
Height-wise, you fit.
I have to cut some weight. I could be the big kid now.
You would have to play. They have an unlimited division.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you. Go ahead.
All right. So Al Blozis, he went to, he was a high school track superstar. Right? Okay. Got a scholarship to Georgetown University for track, actually, where he excelled at the shot put from 1940 to 1942. Then he's drafted in the 5th round of the 1942 draft. He must have had some football experience in there or something, but when you're researching, it looks like he goes from Georgetown in 42, then he goes to the New York Giants. He was drafted in the 5th round. He played offensive tackle in 42 to 43. This guy was a big guy. Right, 6'6", 245 pounds.
In the 40s is like monstrous.
That's what everybody said. He was like the biggest guy in the NFL. Yeah. They said one of his teammates, when they talked to him, the New York Times did an article on Blozis in the 90s, and one of his teammates actually said he could have been the greatest tackle who ever played football. He said he made tackles all over the field. Back then it's Iron Man football, belt sides.
Both ways.
He did special teams too. They said he was the first guy down on kickoffs down on the other side making tackles. Believe it or not, his size is what hurt him for the military. He wanted to join the military, and he was too big. I didn't know they had. I didn't know they had. Yeah, no, they do. I didn't know that. So go ahead.
Well, what brings to mind David Robinson, the great basketball player,
right.
Phenomenal career, San Antonio Spurs, played it. He was in the Naval Academy.
Okay.
And when he joined the Naval Academy, he was like, I want to say 6'5". So he was just on the limit where they allowed him in size-wise.
Wouldn't fit on the ships.
Well, he grew, and when he graduated, he was 7 foot tall, and he actually worked, I think, in subs, submarines.
Really?
Yeah. So, and just
could you imagine?
So big, but so that made me think of that.
Cool. So we'll talk about him on Veterans Day.
Sure.
All right.
A lot of great athletes to talk about on Veterans Day, but go ahead.
Again, I think this just goes to the heart of what we're talking about. This 1940s generation. He actually petitioned the military, and finally in 1943 was able to persuade them to waive the
size
height limit, right? The size limit. Then they give him a desk job. Again, because you're talking about a professional athlete, and I think you saw that a lot where they were giving them, behind the lines not behind, and the back lines kind of jobs. So they gave him a desk job, and then he fought to go to the front lines.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy that you're talking about here is just, it's amazing. With that shot put ability, apparently he has the record, or set a record, for throwing a grenade. He threw a grenade. You ready for this?
Let's hear it.
I don't know how you do this. 94 yards.
It's a whole football field.
Yeah, he threw a grenade a whole football field.
How do they measure it is what I want to know.
Well, I'm sure it was like a dummy one or something. They probably
okay. So it wasn't in. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was in battle, but okay.
Well, could you imagine being that guy? Hey, go stand there with the flag.
He could probably, with the adrenaline flowing during war, he could probably throw 200 yards.
Yeah, right? But again, this is the kind of guy, these nowadays.
He wanted to be out front. That's his mentality.
He liked playing football, too,
Yeah.
because I guess he had a furlough. They gave him furloughs. What does he do with his furlough time? He comes back and he plays in 3 more games in 1944, right?
It's a phenomenal generation.
The guy wants to play football, right?
And they weren't making a lot. I mean, they weren't making a lot of money playing football.
I looked
back
up some
then,
stuff.
too.
I think it was like $600 a game, which
were really nice pay back then.
Or $400 to $600 a game, which even now, if you translate, like I looked at the money that it would translate to, it's still like $70,000-$80,000 a year.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were. I think
correct.
It's one of those things. But so he comes back, plays 3 games. I want to say one of them was a championship game against the Green Bay Packers. Then in 1945, he leaves with his platoon. I'm sorry, he's fighting. I want to say it was in Germany. He leaves his platoon. He goes looking for a missing sergeant and private. And he never comes back. He was missing in action for a little bit. I guess eventually they did find his body. They talked to a friend of his or a platoon mate or something in later years, and the legend is he was shot 38 times. I mean, that just goes to show you the guy was like a freaking bull. And here's a little tidbit for you. He wore 32 when he played for the Giants. That number is retired. I didn't realize that. So the jersey number, the Giants retired his jersey, and apparently there was a guy who played for the Cardinals. Let me find in my notes here. Hold on. Okay, so his jersey number 32 is permanently retired. Otis Anderson, does that sound familiar to you?
Correct, running back.
Okay, so he played with the Cardinals. He wore 32 when he played with them, but then he had to wear number 24 when he played with the Giants because they retired his jersey. So,
didn't know that. So
yes.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yes. So we tried to look up and see what kind of awards he got. Apparently, he didn't get much. You would think something like that would be award worthy, but not. So.
But great man, great American right there.
I think that's an excellent example to start with. And then we go to another New York Giant, believe it or not, Jack Loomis. So it's kind of Giants lore. Anybody who's a big fan of the Giants probably knows who we're talking about because both of them have been honored by the New York Giants. So they probably know who we're talking about. Jack Loomis. He was born in Texas. And he went to Baylor University where he played baseball and football.
Waco, Texas.
So he excelled at baseball and football. He had apparently while he was playing in college, he signed a minor league contract with watch out for this, the Wichita Falls Spudders.
Of course, everyone knows the Spudders.
Spudders. I'm assuming it has something to do with potatoes, I guess. And he had a contract with the New York Giants. Apparently in 1941, an Army Air Corps, not Corps.
It's Corps.
Recruiter came by Baylor, and he signed up for some type of civilian flying school. So obviously he had an inclination towards some military service. He goes and plays with the New York Giants as an end, and he wore number 29. Now, here's it's something interesting. Did you ever hear the Brooklyn Dodgers football team?
I didn't. No. And when you were researching
so we learned
this,
something today.
Everyone remembers Brooklyn Dodgers baseball.
Sure. But we had to look it up. But the Brooklyn Dodgers was actually a football team, and let me just pull this up. They were a football team, the National Football League from 1930 to 43, and then in 1944 they played as the Brooklyn Tigers. They played at Ebbets Field, and in 1945 it looks like they merged with another team. But in 1941, December 7th, 1941, actually, they were playing the Brooklyn Dodgers, the Giants were, and there was an announcement about the Pearl Harbor attack that was made over the PA. January 1942, Loomis enlists with the USMC, the United States Marine Corps, and where he served as an MP. Pretty interesting, I thought. in so he kind of bounces around in the military a little bit from 42 to 45. He's got different positions, different jobs. And in 1945, he was part of the first wave of troops to land in Iwo Jima. Now everybody remembers Iwo Jima. That's the one where they're raising the flag. It's iconic picture. And for the next 2 weeks, he's there and they're fighting the Japanese. He himself knocked out 3 enemy strongholds during the fighting. And while he did, he stepped on a landmine and lost his legs. Again, you're talking about somebody where he lost his legs, but he still, they said, the word is while he's lying on the ground, he continued to urge his platoon on until he was taken to an aid station.
Wow.
And while he's at the aid station, his comment, and this was sent to his letter to his family, but he made a comment to the surgeon, I guess the Giants have lost the service of a damn good end. I mean, that's what the guy's thinking about, as he's dying. So he was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor, and if anybody from Baylor University is listening to this, or anybody does go to Baylor University, there is a statue to him at Baylor University.
Just as you said, that generation, just amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stay in that generation as well. Before we get to Pat Tillman, this is a great segue to Pat Tillman. So Bob Kelsu, was born in 1945 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Went to Dell City High School. Was an offensive lineman, another pretty big guy for the time. So they listed him at 6'3", 235, so a big guy. Offensive lineman, played for Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma. The Sooners. Had a great career there. In 68, so actually he's a little...
Yeah, it's out of that
generation,
right?
But still that... Back then, still a little bit more of that mentality.
Different generation. I mean, that Vietnam War generation, too.
And that's what Bob Kelso was, the Vietnam War. Right. So in 68, he was drafted in the 8th round by the Buffalo Bills.
There you go.
It was the NFL, AFL draft. The Bills were in the AFL, American Football League. And in 68, he was voted the Rookie of the Year for the Bills.
Okay.
For the team. So he had a great year in 68.
Had you ever heard of him?
I had not.
Okay.
But once I researched him, I mean, an unbelievable human being.
Sure.
Obviously.
Sure.
He joined, after a 68 season, he joined the U.S. Army as an officer. He goes in as a first lieutenant.
Right.
Okay. And ultimately, he was killed in action in the Vietnam War in 1970. So he only played 1 year with the Bills.
Yeah.
So during the research, trying to see, where he died, and he died. And I had never heard. There's so many battles out there.
Oh, yeah.
So he died in the Battle of Fire Support Base Ripcord. So in doing that research, it was a really big battle, and the base took all kinds of mortar fire. So it was a 23-day battle.
Jeez. Between
the elements of the U.S. Army, 101st Airborne Division, and 2 reinforced divisions of the People's Army of Vietnam. Okay. It took place from July 1st, 1970 to July 23rd, 1970. It was the last major confrontation between United States ground forces and the People's Army of Vietnam. Okay. Where else I was reading? 3 Medals of Honor, 6 Distinguished Service Crosses were awarded to participants during the actions in that operation. And I want to say, 75 U.S. soldiers were killed in that battle. And during different researches, First Lieutenant Bob Kelsu was mentioned a few times because he was the last professional football player killed in the line of action until Pat Tillman.
Yeah.
Try to get that out if that makes sense. So a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
Does it say, did he voluntarily enlist, or was he drafted? Does it say?
So in the one research I was looking at, it said following the 68 season, so he was a reserve already. So it says to satisfy his reserve officers training corps.
That's why he's
obligation.
Okay. Uh-huh.
He entered the U.S. Army as a second lieutenant. Obviously,
he must have done ROTC.
Got promoted to. He was.
College,
It was ROTC. It's exactly what it was. He got promoted to first lieutenant.